If more of you supported the show, I'd be less sick of podcasts.
The blah blah blah.
Sending out good vibes.
Blah blah blah.
Good vibes.
Blah
Good vibes.
blah blah.
Good vibes. Good vibes.
108 breaths of deep gratitude and prayers for guidance and protection, and put on a didgeridoo and shamanic drumming track, shivers or vibrations and stuff like that.
Okay, guys, welcome back to the Grimerica Show. Coming at you this week with the homesteader Curtis Stone, fellow Canuck over next door in communist BC. Good chat.
Oh yeah, it's awesome.
He's up on the hilltop with the bears.
Yeah, he's great. I love the way he's got the whole design figured out. I mean, this is the way. Like, if you had money, especially if you had money, like, just follow his instructions, follow his directions. Redundancies everywhere. I mean,
Not even a lot of money.
What?
It's not even a lot of money, really, when you compare it to his all in is like probably work out to half the price you're paying for a house in any sort of like main city in Canada, you know? I bet you his whole setup, I don't know. He didn't tell us what he paid for the land, but even all that other stuff put together, I mean, there's only like probably 400 grand, you know, which sounds like a lot of money. That's a lot of money, but it's like in my town, you'd be lucky to get a duplex for that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess it depends on how big the house is on the lot too, I guess. And yeah.
Well, I guess like, I wonder if you build it, if your homesteading is easy to build, just build your own stuff. I wonder, just like without telling anyone.
Yeah, I guess what I'm thinking is that a lot of people that when they would decide to sort of homestead, I feel like they would be doing it on the cheap, trying to do it to sustain themselves, simplify their life, kind of thing, you know.
It's a little both. I mean, I know some dudes that have like brand new electric trucks that they're like charging off of their solar panels, and they're like, yeah, man, I get it. I get why people don't have their electricity because this and that. He's like, but I'm making all my own power. So he's like,
electric trucks.
I've got this truck that I power off of my solar panel. Yeah, Ford has one. I think. I don't know. I'm not in. I don't look at electric trucks, but
hybrid, like a hybrid one or
straight electric, dude.
Wow.
He's like, I would never buy it, but he's like, you know, I can charge this off of my solar thing. He's like, is there a better, like, you know, if the gas runs out, I still got my truck.
Why haven't they put solar panels on the roofs of these vehicles yet? Like, why doesn't the Cybertruck just have a whole panel system?
I think it comes with some stuff. It comes with like a setup you could do. When I was looking to it before, it came with like a setup. They say you could solar power it enough to drive 10 miles a day, which would be 16 kilometers, which is, I mean, doesn't sound like a lot. But if you're just on the farm, you know, 16 kilometers is fucking plenty, dude. That's enough to plow your shit. You know, maybe do a couple rows of plow every day to do this or that. But I mean, I'm not a fan of the Cybertruck. It looks like a piece of shit. I'm not a fan of electric.
We have one in our little town here. We have one in our tiny little town.
Yeah, I see them all the time. They're at the point now where you see them. I see like a couple a week around Calgary. Or you can see them coming right away up behind you with that gay headlight.
Why aren't you a fan of it?
Because it's a piece of shit. I mean, look at it, man. You know,
no. Come on, you can't say it's a piece of shit.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I think I have some standing.
Look at it. I mean,
I've been driving trucks my whole life. I can fucking tell when a truck's a piece of shit just by looking at it.
Just by looking at it.
It's not a truck. They shouldn't even call it a truck. It's at best like a shitty version of an El Camino.
Oh, maybe that's what I need, an El Camino. That's what I need.
There you go. You need a Camino. You're an El Camino.
My car truck. My car truck. I need a car truck.
I watched some videos of that thing jumping with underload and stuff like that, and it just, you know, I'm not interested in it. It's more than I need. It doesn't have a proper box. I would never buy an electric truck. That being said, if I had, you know, when I build my homestead, if I have a bunch of solar power there, and then you're talking about driving for free.
Have you seen that? Have you seen that meme about the Toyota truck?
No.
Something about like you're not free unless you live in a place that allow you to buy that $10,000 like solid Toyota truck. Have you seen that cheap Toyota 4x4? It looks amazing. It looks cool.
Is it new?
But yeah, it's like an economical new truck. And I mean, of course they wouldn't allow those things because they would just go nuts here in Canada with all the truck people.
They won't let them here?
I know. Or the States.
Anyway. Yeah, I don't know. I like my gas truck, but I mean, dude, if I had a whole solar array like Curtis has there, where you've got this system, then you're basically charging a truck. It's costing you nothing. I mean, it'd be crazy not to entertain it, you know? Basically now everything I'm doing around my house, I can still do no matter what. I can still drive around and go hunting and do this around my property with barring what's it called, an EMP or whatever going on, that you can run out of gas, you can do whatever, the supply chain can shut down, I can still just fucking keep going post collapse or something like that. You just have it. I mean, that'd be a secondary thing. It would be but I mean, it to me, it's different once you're making your own power. Then I think I'd entertain electricity. I still wouldn't rely on it, but I'd have one for sure, especially if I just have the money. If you just, it's like, it's be a good,
yeah. I mean, have a great investment, right? Especially the way things have come far enough now where you can use it.
Talking when we're hunting, we're constantly talking about, wouldn't it be nice to just have like an electric truck? Because my truck is fucking loud, so you can't really use it you come over a hill and everything's already fucking running. Or it's at the very least, it's staring right where you're about to come over the hill because it hears your engine running. You wouldn't think of it when you're in the truck, but if you go like stand out in the field and then I go drive my truck, you'll hear my truck for fucking ever, dude, for miles and miles and miles. And that's with my shitty human ears.
Yeah.
So if you're an animal. So what we were saying is if you just had an electric, that you could just like, if you were going slow enough, it would probably almost be silent.
Wow.
The problem is you have to trailer it out there because the range isn't enough to get out there and go hunting and get home.
Yeah. Here it is. How Toyota was able to make a $13,000 future pickup so affordable. It ain't easy being cheap. And this is from Road and Track. It turns out the $10,000 pickup truck is actually too good to be true, but only a little bit. The production version of the Toyota IMV0 concept, now known as the Hilux Champ in Thailand, starts at 13,000, just over 13,000
USD.
Yeah, probably. So I guess it's a little more. But there's some cool. I mean, I like the with the bed, but this is just a flat back there on it. There's the one with the bed. I mean,
that's a decent little truck.
Decent little truck for 13 grand. I mean, I'm sure it's super basic, right? Which is what you want, just a basic vehicle, right? Not all this. Huh. Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
I get one. Anyway, yeah, it was a fun episode of Curtis because it's very fun because it's like, in 10 years, that's the kind of shit I'm going to be doing.
Exactly. Yeah,
it's kind of a weird switch to think of where right now I feel so busy right now that it's crazy. But then sometimes I'm like, in 10 years, I'm just going to be fucking, like, I'm going to be kicking myself looking for stuff to do. The kids will be fucking gone off or, even if they're still at home, they ain't going to want much to do. They'll be in their 20s.
Yeah, but dude, if you have a homestead like that, I mean, I know he didn't say it's a lot. He said it's not a lot of time to maintain it, but you're always got stuff to do.
It's super busy. It's like the natural
stuff, making stuff, like fixing
super
stuff.
Busy in the spring, in the summer, in the fall, and then your winters are very slow.
Yeah,
go out and just do what you got to do to keep it going. But your gardening is already done. Your meat is already packed away for the year, probably, and now you're just fucking rolling.
Just moving snow. I mean, that's your winters, moving snow.
I get into that, man. I can get into that. That's all right.
It's cold here this all week. Dude, this morning was super cold, like minus 40 feels like minus 40. But then I guess all week it's going to be 20 to 30 minus below. It's 20 to 30.
Dude, I'll be out there first thing in the morning doing something. I'll go bonkers. Like, honestly, is like after I have a few days off in a row, I am chomping at the bit to get out the door and get to work and go solve some problems. And,
yeah,
as much as it drives me nuts sometimes, I need
It's
to.
the problem solving thing, I think, which is a key part of it. I mean, even when I was just doing these tiny little renos and like every little thing you do, like you got to figure shit out and solve problems the whole way through it.
Keeps you sharp.
Little, right? Little things, but it's like, oh, how do we do it better? Do it this way, do it that way. You know, yeah, it's pretty cool.
I've started because I've been watching some of these Google Earth shows on YouTube where it's like people, you know, I don't know, I couldn't say what the channels are called, but just with the wife watching, you know, the most 10 craziest places to get to, or buddies just like, you know, literally going around on YouTube, Google Earth or whatever and finding these crazy canyons and just look at some pretty crazy stuff. Looks fun, but he's got millions of subscribers, so now he's like trying to go to these places and stuff.
Oh.
Now I'm on there like looking for places, looking for cool landscape. You know, where do I want to go? Because we are like, you know, the freedom's coming. I can smell it. The freedom.
Well, yeah, and he mentioned the view, like he's got an amazing view on the top of the hill, and I honestly, that's what I'd like to do. This morning in the prairies, I saw the sun like rising, like you could watch it come up over the horizon in the mist, like you could stare right at it as it come up. It was a beautiful sunrise. I'd love to have a view. That would be what I would sort of want to manifest. You know, besides just having this little tiny home here, it's just like a, you know, a view of the sunrise and sunset. I know you have a view there, but I mean, that's what I ideally kind of on a hill, on a rolling hill with a view.
The trouble is, it's like you can have kind of either or. It's either you can have water or the view in a lot of ways, unless you're on the edge of a big lake or something like that. And the lake is the view, which kind of opens it up a little bit. But for a lot of, I mean, like where he is, he's got no water.
Oh, yeah. Right.
350 feet deep, and he's counting on catching water and stuff in the range, which is fine. I'm not knocking his system. He's an expert.
No, I think he found a way to get the water back up there, right?
Yeah, he has a pump. The pump. But I'm looking at these like lonely rivers up in like just you don't even have to go that far north, man. You really don't, where there's these rivers and there's no houses for miles, and you can actually just be on the bend of the river. And that's really where the most beautiful spots in the plains are. You know, if you can get on that river someplace or right next to it where it's green, you got trees, you got all the game in the world, you got fish, and you got nonstop water just running right by your thing. I guess the problem with that is if the shit goes down, you might have bandits coming down the river. But I mean, once you get up 2-3 hours north of Edmonton, man, I don't know where the bandits are coming from. You know, it's kind of like that thing Curtis said. I mean, he's talking about a tank of gas, but if you're like 3 hours or 4 hours north or east of Edmonton, you know, just the percentage of people that could actually make it to you is small enough that, you know, that how many of them are actually going to get it down to yours. There's only so many roads down to your little river. And when they show up, they're getting fucking shot in the face. So there's only so much of that.
Yeah, a tank. Yeah, it's probably good. Like a tank. I mean, you know, 80% of the people probably wouldn't make it that far, or you know, they wouldn't have a full tank, you know, to go. But I do love.
And they have to do that. Make it like, because it's not like you're on the Trans Canada. You know what I mean? So it's like the people that do leave the city with the full tanks of gas. Which roads are they going down? And, you know, most of them probably aren't heading north, I would argue. Almost all of them will be headed south.
Well, I don't know. It depends on what happens, but, you know.
It does depend on what happens.
If there's an invasion from the south, you never know. I mean.
Can you believe they asked us if we would use our guns?
Well, who asked that? I was trying to tell that story today.
The liberal that supported taking on my guns.
Was it a liberal? Was it really a politician? Because I thought it's too funny to be true. It can't be true that they're asking.
I don't know if it's actually a politician, but if it's not a politician, it's like a political commentator.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. Yeah,
and it is a liberal that has been a very vocal supporter of the
guns rights, clamping down on the guns.
Yeah, it's a real shame.
Yeah, it's funny.
So I mean, you could help manifest that freedom for the Grimerica team sooner than later, you guys. The time is now, and we're heading into year 12 of Grimerica this year. We're having our 12th year anniversary coming up. The 12th year anniversary coming up.
No, we're heading into 13th. Yeah, it's the 12-year anniversary.
Because we had 11, right? Yeah, because we started in 2013.
In 12, yeah.
It's our 12-year anniversary. I don't know which anniversary that is. Maybe it's gold. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's silver. I don't know. But hopefully it's just we need some support. You know, a lot of you guys have listened to hundreds and hundreds of our shows. We thank you. We hope you enjoyed them. And some of you haven't even listened to that many, and you're supporting them. We love you for that. But some of you listen to hundreds and hundreds of shows, and you never haven't supported yet. And that's fine. We get it. Times have been tough. It looks like it's getting a little better down there, though. I mean, your dollar's up compared to ours. You can give us almost nothing, and it counts as something.
It's silk and linen. Silk. So
that's what year 12 is?
Silk is year 12. Yeah. So
gay.
Yeah. Kind of gay.
Anyway.
Silk robe would be nice. I mean,
no, don't send any silk fucking robes. Don't
just
do
make
that.
it big enough because it's gotta have room in the shoulders. I tried to buy a kimono the other day and it just was too tight and I just couldn't even move in it. It was gross.
Yeah, there's a picture. There's a mental picture. You're having a too tight kimono. I thought that was for Japanese chicks. But
no, of course not.
Kimono? Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm positive. It's men and women. Come on.
Were you going to use it
for a geisha or something, right?
What? For sword play? Were you going to wear it when you played with your Japanese sword? Is that like the sword opener? Is that what we're talking about?
No.
Like the one Tom Cruise wore in Last Samurai?
No, I just wanted a comfy robe.
Oh, so it's just a robe. Why are you calling it a...
Well, because it's a kimono. It's
I can't wait to see this kimono nipple clamps. Anyway, this should be 2025. Should be the year to you too to finally do it. Head over to grimerica.ca/support today. Sign up for a monthly or make a one-time donation. We're still at it 12 years later. Still doing the show. Still doing it for free. We did start other stuff and try to monetize other directions, but we never ever did advertisers. We never did paywall. And we kept every single episode there available in the back catalog for free. So we hope you guys can go check them out. If you haven't listened to them, I mean, there's some doozies in the back catalog. We came out of the gate swinging with guests like Stanley Krippner and Dennis McKenna and, a bunch of great guests. Check it out. Peruse it. And a lot of our guests have been vindicated over the decade.
Exactly. I mean, they're just talking about
was like getting called crazy for saying there's water on Mars, and then
no, the monolith is making a comeback. The Phobos moon monolith. I'm like, we were talking about this on our first episode in 2013, 2012, 2013. And we just had a funny synchronicity with the numbers. Like we had 693 out on Grimerica show at the same time as 396. What was it? 369 and 693 out at the same time. So Grimerica Outlawed had that, and Grimerica had that's like our Tesla synchronicity.
Good time to sign up for $693 a month, or $369 a month, or just donate $369. I don't know how you guys want to slice it, but what we would like you to do, if you are getting some value from our podcast or all the other podcasts we've done, or anything we, even if you like it, if you keep listening, consider heading over to grimerica.ca/support today. Sign up for monthly or make a one-time donation, and we'd be thrilled. I mean, we really would. It doesn't seem like much, but we have only a couple hundred supporters, so every time we get a new one, it's a big deal. And a few of you guys have been listening, so that just gets us a little more excited to try and get some more. Maybe we can actually double or triple the amount of support we got and start doing this full time, and maybe double the content we're putting out. That's the kind of stuff that becomes realistic, is we can just do more better stuff for you that has 100% of our attention. So please, if you're getting some value from it, head over to grimerica.ca/support today and sign up for a monthly and make a one-time donation and become a noble in the fucking hegemony of Grimerica. You're just a noble now. You went from a piece of shit to a noble. No, I don't want to say piece of shit. That's a little rough. But it's like a pleb, underling, peon, serf, just, peasant to a noble. Pal, just like that. You're at the table having dinner. And you can even up that a little more, get to $1,000 Canadian, which is like $450 US these days. Not quite that low, but getting there. And now you're a lord or a lady. You can email us anytime. We'll read it. You can text us. We'll answer all that kind of stuff. We got a couple good lords. And then we still don't have a god. So if you get to 10,000, you become a deity. So you could be the first god of Grimerica in 2025. Wouldn't that be something? Just bam, you're the god of Grimerica. I mean,
pick a name, pick some attributes, pick a location. I mean, I guess you could be like god of the world, the whole Grimerica realm.
And then you get all these weird powers. We don't even know what they are yet, but if you send us the money, we'll come up with something. I promise you that. You Graham will do the shows topless. In his Kyobi or Kenobi or whatever the fuck.
Ryobi?
What are you wearing again? Yeah, we playing with
Kimono?
his kimono, playing with his Ryobi. Ooh, watching his Roku. We do have some people that answered the call last week. I mean, I got to say, it's a little exciting for me. I think this is the first time ever that I've had an actual friend from the wild, not a wild, because he's a good buddy of mine. I hang with him all the time, but someone that I actually like grew up with and a buddy is supporting the show. He said he's been listening more and more, and it feels right that he should support. So, buddy Jesse Cole signed up for a monthly, $5.55. Thanks, Jesse. Best restaurant, best barbecue in Alberta.
Yep.
So thank you, sir. Thank you. And we got Mackenzie Fester Chastney, or maybe Ken. It might be Ken. I don't know. Something Chastney. Thank you. Sign up for $11.11 a month. Thank you. We appreciate it. And then we will bounce over to the next one, which is Joseph Sim. Sign up for $5.55 a month. So I think that's like, here's the thing. We get a cancellation every week or so, a cancellation or two. There's just this steady churn that's happening. You got to check your subscription. I say this, you guys think I'm crazy, but we've had like a dozen people who check their subscription and like, holy crap, he's right. It's off.
Yeah, PayPal just like, honestly,
PayPal just shuts it off. If you got a new credit card, it shut off. If anything weird happened, I mean, it just shut off just because they felt like shutting it off. It's like a 10% churn rate sort of every month on that. So we need a couple supporters like this every month just to keep up with attrition. So America.ca/support. Sign up for monthly or make a one-time donation today. And of course, there's contact@thecabin.com. Unfortunately, the Azores is sold out. I told you guys it's going to happen fast, and nobody believed me. Now here it is, 9 months away, and it's sold out. But you could email me, I guess, if you want to get on the waiting list. Darren@grimerica.ca. And we are building a waiting list because we might do a second one in the spring or something like that, and some people might drop out. So if you do want to go, you didn't get in yet, just email me and I'll start a prioritized waiting list. You could be like the second person on it if you're quick. So
first in, first out.
Yeah, but I mean, don't go on the waiting list unless you're serious. There's nothing worse than emailing the waiting list and then so. And then we do have some spots left. There's about a dozen spots left. It's been going fast the last few days. It's flying off the shelf right now, as they say. The Bonneville tour with Randall Carlson. It's a Sunday to Sunday this time, so it's a whole 6 nights. 6 nights all over from Salt Lake City.
Salt Lake,
yeah, Salt Lake City up to Boise and back down over a week, and get you back to the airport. So want to check that out. That's going quick. I mean, what happens is there's so like small capacity that it doesn't take much of a flurry before they're gone. Randall mentions it's now on a big podcast. It's gone. So check that out, guys, if you want to come to that. And GrimericaCBD.com too, if you want to get some CBDs going. Grimerica.ca/shroom. Some people seen it went down, but it is back up. If you want to check that out, those are also good ways to support the show. We are also working on some affiliate stuff for that CBD thing. So if you have a podcast and you're interested in something like that, let us know. Maybe we can make a little money. You can make some money. And of course, adultbrain.ca for all the audiobooks. And now, of course, a growing collection of also ebooks, paperbacks, and quality hardcovers of some classic books. You know, you guys know all the books already, or most of them through the thing. But now we're making like collector's edition hardcovers of a lot of these. So you want to check that out. It's another thing we're doing. And the other thing we're doing, if you're writing a book or you know someone who's writing a book and you want to publish it, and it's just a little overwhelming, we're offering a whole tier of publishing services there as well, right down from royalty share on just your ebook and paperback, all the way up to a super platinum package where we'll do the audio, the ebook, the paperback, the hardcover, the marketing blitz. All of it will get your book available to 40,000 retailers all over the world, on Amazon, on Barnes & Noble, on everywhere. It's everywhere, basically everywhere. We got the real deal. So we'll be able to. You're muted. We can order you books if you want them. We can sell your books on our website for you. Anyway, it's all there at
adultbrain.ca, right? And then publish your book is on there, right? /
That's
publish
right.
your book. Yeah.
Publish your book, and that'll get you over there. And the other thing I gotta say is cool is notice a bunch of people have been sending in some pictures of getting their new Grimerica swag, and they're saying they love it. So they did take down the Unvax Lives Matter shirt, which is kind of disheartening. But the spring store is still there. You can still get it over there. I should put a link just to that shirt. They're the only people in the world that'll sell that fucking shirt. Yeah, it lasted like 2 weeks. And they're like, nah, man.
And you think by now it would be okay, you know?
Well, I gotta say, at least they don't cancel you for it anymore, because it used to be just, hey, fuck you, you're canceled. Now it's like, hey, man, don't do this, which is how it should be. So,
yeah. That
being said, that big fight ours turned out to be better in the end, probably.
Maybe.
Time will tell.
Time will tell.
Anyway, that's all I got.
All right. Well, Curtis Stone is now I'm trying to find him. He's on X at Off-Grid Stone, off-grid on the mountain in southern BC, working towards freedom, liberty, and prosperity, sharing the journey and abundance along the way. The Homestead Accelerator is freedomfarmers.com. And he's also got a YouTube channel that he's still doing every once in a while. He's got a ton of subscribers over there. He's got some, especially if you're looking for homesteading. He's got all the states. I don't know if every one, but he's got a bunch of states like, homesteading in Indiana, for example, or East Coast Canada, all that kind of stuff. And that's at Off-Grid Curtis Stone on YouTube.
There you have it, guys. Check all that stuff out. It is a good chat. He's got some great resources over there. More than all, enjoy the chat with Curtis Stone.
All right, Curtis Stone, thanks for joining us in Grimerica. How you doing?
Super. How are you guys doing?
I don't know. Okay. We're in the middle of a cold snap that I'm pretty new to Saskatchewan, and I looked at today, like the next week is like minus 20, like the whole way. So I don't know. I'm just sort of trying to psych myself up for, not being able to do too much outside stuff. I mean, it must be weird for you being in like homesteading and having everything there for you, because you get some winter there too, right?
Yeah, this is literally what my homestead looks like right now. I flew that drone
awesome.
up like a couple weeks ago. Yeah, it's not nearly as cold as Saskatchewan, but we're in a snow belt. Like we're at 1,000 meters of elevation. So,
okay,
you go down the mountain and it's like there's barely snow anywhere. So
Yeah.
up here, but I like it because we're above the cloud inversions. So, in BC, you get like those cloud inversions that sit low in the valleys. We're above that. So we're sunny on a lot of days. So it's quite
nice. So you're southern BC then?
Yeah.
So close to Alberta or more sort of central?
No, central.
Yeah. Okay.
South
That's a beautiful
central
area.
BC.
Beautiful area. Wow.
Yeah, we love it. We're away from all the main shitty towns, and
Yeah.
it's just we're in
Just
the
like
bush.
all of them.
Yeah, it's great.
It used to seem so picturesque and beautiful. I mean, it's hard to believe how far fucking BC fell in 20 years. When I first moved out to Alberta, 20 must have been 22 years ago I moved here. And because I've been here over half my life now. So I'm officially an official Albertan. But I remember going to those towns. Like, I mean, there was a lot of HA running around Kelowna, but for the most
Yep.
part, those towns were pretty nice towns. Like Kamloops, Kelowna, they were pretty nice towns other than the HA. I remember renting those little scooters and going all
Oh,
over
yeah.
Kelowna
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and having a time. And nowadays,
not
I
anymore,
go in there
dude.
and I'm just like, I got to get the fuck out of here. There's like a
Brutal.
Walking Dead vibe to it.
It's brutal. Well, that's what happens when you inject a massive amount of migrants that just don't fit in and don't care to. And then all of a sudden everybody's like, well, how come nobody trusts each other? You know, Kelowna, up until 10, 15 years ago, people didn't lock their doors. Now it's a complete liberal shithole. Like it's just
Well, I think the soft on crime aspect has a lot to do with it too. Like just the revolving door. I mean, when I moved out of Calgary right at the beginning of COVID, like my bike was stolen, our cars were getting broken into. We were living in a nice part of downtown. Like it was kind of like the trendy area and we just weren't feeling safe anymore. And it's like you call the cops to report this stuff and they just don't, it's like they don't even care. They don't even take it seriously. It's like, well, so I think that's got a big problem, big part to do with it. But what's it like for you homesteading? Like, would you? I love how you're doing all this analysis to help people. Like you're doing analysis on like where to homestead and like what states, what provinces, like what area. I mean, I can't wait to get into it. But what is BC any different in that regard? Like with dealing with the government and regulations for homesteading, or
It is actually.
Of course,
I think BC is the best province in Canada.
Wow.
I say that I mean, it depends where, right? I'm nowhere near the cities. Like I'm in the boonies. Like I don't tell people.
There is a beauty to BC like that. Like I was in Kamloops and then I flew from Kamloops to Vancouver and then from Vancouver back to Calgary because the direct flight was $1,000 from Kamloops to Calgary. So for half that, I could go to Vancouver first.
That's a lot.
Now you tell me how that is fucking saving the environment. I'm not sure, but
I don't care. But
the thing you really notice is like outside of those, like there's the cities down the valley, you know, Kamloops. There's a few of them there, but man, there's nothing. There's nothing out
that's
there.
Just it. It's wide open. You know what I tell people is there's a direct correlation between concrete and tyranny. And so the more concrete you're close to, highways, byways, buildings, bridges, infrastructure, the more government there is to regulate that shit. So you get on dirt roads and you get out in the bush, there's nobody around to care, and they don't care. And I also think there's something to, you know, when the politicians get up and do that little virtue signal and they go, before we start today's proceedings, we want to acknowledge we're standing on the unceded territory, blah, 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 blah. That's fucking true. And in BC especially, most of the province is considered unceded. That actually has legal ramifications. It means that this whole government here is just a dog and pony show.
Well, I don't think they say unceded in Alberta.
No, they don't.
No, Alberta's treaty land.
It's treaty lands, yeah. And I can tell you, as somebody who pays attention to these things, there is something to BC. Like I don't care about the NDP. Like I don't care about the politics. I'm talking about the law itself. There's something to BC, and that's why I've chosen to stay here. I'm born and raised here too, so like I like it. I like the climate. It's beautiful. Like I'm surrounded by nature. Like that's my homestead. I'm on a mountaintop. We look into a southeast valley. It's just trees and rivers and valleys. Like you can't get that anywhere. Even in Alberta, it's just roads everywhere because it's just Alberta's just developed because it's so wide open, you know?
Yeah.
So
it's plains, baby.
Yeah.
But then we can get everywhere. That's the trade-off. We can get everywhere, which is great for hunting.
The government can get everywhere too. And they drive by your place all the time. Whereas out here, nobody's coming by.
What's the game scene like? Yeah, what's the game scene like?
For animals?
Yeah.
Oh, it's abundant. They're everywhere.
What are you hunting?
I'm not a hunter, but one day I'll get into that. But no, I've got moose, deer, wild turkey, rabbits, quail, grouse, everything. And that's partly why I bought this place, because I was kind of thinking that at some point I might want to get outside of my little farming bubble and do that. But yeah, it's abundant out here.
Yeah, it's all right. I mean, the thing about Alberta and Montana is it's like it's not just abundant, it's the world class. It's literally world class. It's the best in the world. Alberta and Montana is the best hunt in the world. There's nears like that. I mean, Alaska might be able to give it a run for its money,
Oh,
but
I'm sure it
you aren't
will.
hunting a lot of elk in Alaska, and you aren't hunting any antelope in Alaska. So there's like Alberta, Montana just got so much going on. Montana's better because it's got the turkey. It's got the. I mean, Montana is just
Oh,
this.
we have all
undiscovered-
that shit, dude. I
Amazing.
have wild up on my ridge here. You go up this way on my property, and there's turkeys. I have moose coming through, white-tailed mule deer constantly. It's unbelievable. And there's just because there's so much space, like it's
You got to
just so
get to
much.
hunting that shit.
Absolutely. Yeah. One day, it's like one thing at a time. You take on a project this size, man. It's like I'm 4 years into this project, and
Right.
it's all encompassing.
How long have you had your like Homestead Accelerator going? Was it all part? Was it part of this whole thing? Like,
No, because I've been doing that in consulting for a long time.
right.
Getting people on farms and basically evaluating properties for them. I've been doing that for at least 8 years. So when I started looking for this property, though, I looked at a lot of places in BC. I was all over. I was basically from as far west as Princeton, as far east as Cranbrook, as far north as
Revelstoke,
Quesnel.
Quesnel. Wow.
I went
Wow.
up that far, and basically, because I spent so much time, and this was right at the beginning of the COVID lockdowns, and so I started at that point. I kind of really realized, like, man, I've got a really good process for this, especially doing a lot of the traveling myself. I'd done it in consulting on Zoom calls forever.
Yeah.
And flown around, like people would pay me to go places and check places out and stuff, but mostly on Zoom calls using Google Earth. But I kind of, after I did this property, I kind of realized, like, man, I got a pretty good system here for this. And then I just had this idea. I was like, well, maybe I'll make a course about how to find a property. And so we built this course called Finding the Perfect Homestead Property. And then I had a bunch of realtors reach out to us and say, hey, this is really cool what you guys have built. Could you do this for us on a regular basis? And I said, yeah, we'll try it. Let's see. And it was kind of hard to monetize it at first because it really was leveraging me and my expertise. And that's hard to scale that, right? And so, but I trained a team to do it, how to pull the analytics, how to analyze terrain on Google Earth, and evaluate climate, look at soil, look at waterways and stuff like that. And yeah, I got this great team that do it, and we crank out 10 to 30 properties a week that are like banger homesteads that have everything you need for a homestead to grow food, live off the grid, have multiple water sources, good buildings and infrastructure, and all that kind of stuff.
What a great idea. So you have like a rating system for all the,
There's a
like,
rating
what,
system.
what are some of the other attributes that you talk about? I mean, do you include like government regulations, all that kind of stuff too? Like
Not
deep
really. I don't really get into that because that's too hard to, like, we could. I mean, if people wanted to pay 2 to 3 times more for the program, we probably could do that.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they would, because people who live in those areas kind of know that stuff anyways. But
But
what we do is we follow the 11 scales of permanence that kind of go through all. They're called 11 scales of permanence because they reflect how difficult it is to change something. So they start from the hardest to change to easiest to change. So it starts at climate, then it goes geography, then it goes water, socioeconomics, access and circulation, zones of use, soil, all the way down to aesthetics and experience, buildings and infrastructures in there too. And so we basically evaluate everything on those things. And then even before we get there, though, we look for threats. That's the first thing. It's like when I get on Google Earth to look at a property, I zoom out and then I look at sort of the 100-mile area around it and go, what's in that area that could be an external threat? Like, is there some kind of, chemical manufacturing plant? Is there a bunch of GMO farms? Is there, are there any climate threats?
Yeah.
Are you close to a shithole liberal city like Memphis, where you've got a bunch of welfare recipients that if the shit hits the fan and they're starving, your food, that kind of stuff. So we evaluate it all on those criteria, and then we rate them as A, B, or C. So an A property is like a slam dunk, turnkey homestead. It's got multiple sources of water. It's got places to grow food. So it's got fields that are prepared. It's got good infrastructure. It's got a nice house. It's got a shop and maybe a barn, might have a greenhouse, has good access in. It's got good setback from the road. So the property's not visible from the road. It'll have some topographic variation to it. It has good climate. It's not going to be in a tornado zone. We don't list any properties that are in the FEMA zones. So we actually use because most of the stuff we do is in the US. I mean, we do a good amount in Canada too, but in the US we use the FEMA map. And so we don't actually put any properties that are in the FEMA maps on there. So if there's any risk of flooding, hurricane, tornadoes, any extreme weather, we don't list those properties, period. So basically everything that we list is good. So even if it's an A, it's turnkey. Those properties are obviously more expensive. If it's a B property, basically has all the hallmarks of a good property, but it needs some fixing up. Like maybe it needs a new roof on the house. Maybe it needs some better fencing. Maybe you got to plow a field, but it's got the fundamentals. And then a C property is what we call bargain properties, are cheap properties that have everything fundamentally. You just got to put in some resources to make it happen.
What's the so you are mostly in the States then, eh?
For that, only just by numbers, but we have a lot of properties in Canada. Like if you go to freedomfarmers.com and you can just like on our program, our website, you can just sign up and get access to everything. And so if you go into the Homestead Accelerator, yeah, there it is. In the map, we have a map that's just has all live listings. I don't know if you'll see it from the
main page
here,
yeah.
But basically everything that's there is live and for sale. We don't make any money on the real estate transactions. We just provide the service. But there's tons of properties in Canada. Like actively, we've got, there's at least dozens, maybe more. I mean, there's got to be hundreds of properties in there total at the moment. And we take ones down that say, because we update the list every week.
Yeah.
So if something is sold and it's not listed, it's gone off the map. But we got lots of properties in Canada, lots of Alberta, lots of Ontario, lots of Quebec, even Saskatchewan, PEI properties, like all over Canada. We list stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you went through a lot of that process looking for your property there. What was it like trying to find? So you went all around BC and then you picked the top of this hill out. How far away are you from like the main highway kind of thing?
Not too far. Like it's like we're in the boonies, but we're kind of in the best of both worlds where we're in the boonies, but not miles down a dirt road. My driveway is 1 kilometer long though. And it zigzags and it climbs about 100 meters of elevation on just my driveway. I'm often in the winter in the clouds at the bottom of the driveway and above the clouds at the top of the driveway. It's really trippy. It's really neat. But so, we're not actually that far from civilization. It's just, I'm not close to big cities like Kelowna or of course, Vancouver. I'm nowhere near Vancouver. But so, I mean, on this process to find it was a grind, man, but I was desperate because, I saw what was going on with COVID and I just had my second child at that point. And I saw my neighbors go crazy. Like we all did. You saw people that you had really good rapport with and everybody knew me and came and chat with me over the fence in the garden and people loved my kids and just good vibes all around. And then COVID turned everybody into a paranoid fucking freak. And I just said, I can't, I don't want my children being subjected to this shit. And so, at that point we kind of timed the market because like I bought my house in Kelowna in 2014. I put a little bit of money into it, made it pretty sweet. But we cashed out pretty good because it was a good time to sell. And so that kind of fueled this project to start. But yeah, it was a grind, man. I mean, I was driving all over the province. I was probably doing a trip at least twice a week, going somewhere, driving from, say, Kelowna to Salmon Arm to go look at a few properties, come back. Next week, drive out towards Merritt, look at a few properties, come back, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a grind.
So did you have to do a lot of this yourself then? You put in those solar panels and a lot of was anything built at all?
No, the only thing that was built, you can't really see it, but on this side here, there's a little cabin. This property, that's all it came with, was a cabin. And so, I built.
Wow.
I'm more of the GC. I mean, I built all the greenhouses. I've poured all the concrete foundations, but I've had help. Like I hired people the whole time, but I've been basically the GC and just managed everything, and then had specialists, different sub trades come in along the way. But I've been involved in every single part of the build. I've had my hands on the tools the entire time. I'm certainly I'm a pretty general trades guy. I'm a pretty decent carpenter now, but I can do a little bit of everything. A pretty broad skill set. But yeah, I was involved in everything, and all the land, all the earthworks, all the terracing, all the machine work was all me. That was all me, 100%.
Is there anything you go ahead, Darren?
Are all the sites on the? I'm sorry if you said this already, but would all the homesteads on your website, are they all mortgageable, or the C ones maybe wouldn't have a property on them, so they aren't mortgageable, or is that taken into account?
Most of them are mortgageable because most of them aren't actually off grid. Off grid, like this place is off grid. You can't get a mortgage in Canada on an off grid property unless it's through CME, unless it's through FCC, Farm Credit Canada. They will in some circumstances. But
before we leave that point though, does the average home now, like a homestead site, especially in like rural BC, you must be able to pick up some of these properties fairly cheap, or are they still in the hundreds of thousands? I mean, are you still going to be wanting to look at mortgaging it? Probably.
It depends. I didn't mortgage this because I got this cheap because nobody wanted it. This property was like 12 deals fell through in a year for the guy who was trying to sell this, because nobody could get a mortgage. People didn't like the off-grid thing. There wasn't a reliable source of water at the time, and the driveway was long and wasn't. I put $80,000 in the driveway in the first 2 years of being here. Yeah. So people didn't want it. So this place was just sitting. But this is the thing, and this actually the biggest inspiration I had to build that course that later became part of the Homestead Accelerator was I wanted to show people how to identify things in a property that other people won't see, because that's how I got this place so cheap. I won't tell you how much it was, but it was significantly cheaper than anything on the market at the time, because I saw the potential and I knew I could get water up here. And so, but most people don't know that, and realtors don't know it either. Most realtors are lazy. And especially, and you can't blame them to be a rural realtor is a tough gig because it's a lot of driving, right?
Yeah.
You got to drive like half hour one way to show a person a property and then drive a half hour back. Like, to do that 3 or 4 times a week sucks. So I get it.
Yeah. In the city, all the prices are skyrocketing, so you make more commission off the.
Well, that's it. If you want to be a realtor, just sell single family homes or condos in a big city, right? And turn and burn. But but it's a lot of competition, and that's the appeal to being a rural realtor. I actually once I built that program, the Homestead Accelerator, I actually started to get my real estate license, because I was like, hey, I should just understand this process more.
Yeah.
And then I just realized realtors get taxed to high hell, and I was like, fuck that.
So why don't they
Indian on unceded territory?
What's that?
What if they're an Indian on unceded territory? Then can I elude the taxes?
We got some stuff we could talk about off air.
We should talk about that, because I'm a BIPOC. I'm a card carrying BIPOC.
There you go. Here's my card, my victim card. Lay it on the table.
I have a victim card.
Yeah, no, there's probably some stuff there. But that's the thing, like the whole system. I don't want to open a can of worms, but just the whole system's
that's okay.
Show. It's all a joke, and everything is just your signature. And so when you start to really understand that fundamentally, you can live with a whole level of freedom that you never thought possible. It's kind of like, imagine you were put in a cell in this big fancy prison. And when they arrested you, they walked you through this prison and you went through all these security checkpoints and you're just like overwhelmed with how much security there is. And then they throw you in the cell and a guy tells you, dude, the door's not even locked. And you go and you fucking check the door and it's not even locked. But you thought this whole time it was locked because they hyped it up. And I think that's sort of a metaphor for actually how the system is like, it's all just a psychological game. And when you really understand how it all works, not that I understand how it all works, but I've got a pretty good understanding of it at this point. I've been
enough to
truther for 25 years, reading the law for 10. And basically it's just a joke. It's all just this joke that they want you to just be so fearful that you don't even think to check the fucking door.
Yeah.
And most people don't. Because your friends and neighbors will be like, don't do that. You're gonna check the door. What do you think you're gonna do? It's like as soon as you
think they forgot to
talking
lock
shit.
the door?
Well, it's just like during COVID, you started talking about stuff and people just like shoot you down, right? It's like it's the sheepdogs that come out and they're the ones that actually do the policing, right? Just like during COVID, it was the corporations that did all the policing. The government actually didn't do that much. They just put out their little press releases and the media ran with the rest, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Sad. So what's it like for like, just because the attraction to me is that you could live like a life that's a little bit cheaper. If you didn't have to mortgage it, which I was going to ask, why can't you mortgage an off-grid property?
Well, mostly because it just comes down to the lending policies. At least this is what I understand, is that they can't leverage you as much. If you're off grid, they can't turn off your water. They can't turn off your power. So they just have less control over you.
Right.
Also, maybe they could make a case as far as liability too, that maybe, because you're off grid, you have a bit more risk, like fire risk or whatever. You have a lot of less risk though in some ways because you don't have junkies going through your garbage cans to look for pop bottles.
Yeah, exactly. So the attraction for me would be to be able to, like, if I didn't have to have a mortgage, to live a little bit simpler as far as like working for the man. And we kind of do our own thing here anyway. So I could technically kind of do something like that, but it must be like, are you able to sustain yourself with your labor, like you and a partner or a family's labor? Like, how big of a community do you need to make it work? Like I've heard sort of different stories about that,
yeah, well, that's a complicated answer. For me, I've been a multifaceted entrepreneur for a long time. So I haven't been like, I don't work as a trades guy. I've been an online entrepreneur since 2016 when my book came out.
Yeah.
And that kind of freed me up. I stopped farming at that point, like I wasn't doing a lot of the things that I had done in the past. So I wasn't chained to a particular place. So I got somebody coming in. Oh.
That's not good if someone's coming there for 1 hour drive.
So I wasn't chained to anywhere. So it didn't matter for me. But as far as, people that I consult for who do things like getting off grid, going out on the bush, how do you restructure your life? What do you do? You have to make changes. One thing I've noticed just by being out here, and I still travel a lot in the US and Canada. I go to small towns and things like that, is small towns are totally underserviced. They're lacking in trades. There's huge demand for trades in small towns, especially towns that have some amount of growth trajectory, like towns that are like less than 1,000 people, not really, but towns that are, 1,000 or 2,000 people that have a growth trajectory, there's opportunities. And you can, a lot of people work online anyways, right? So there's all kinds of things that you can do.
Well, I'm sort of curious more of like how much of your week, like if you were farming and maybe doing some of your own animals and stuff and just even like maintaining your property, like, is that can you do that in 30-hour a week kind of thing? Like,
oh, for sure. I can run my whole homestead on 10 hours a week.
Really?
Like, yeah, even in the winter. it's systems though, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
systems, equipment, skills. The big advantage I had when I came out to do this is I had already, 10 years of farming experience. And so when you're a farmer, you become a real broad tradesman because you always have
Totally.
to fix shit, right?
Yeah, you go.
This is to fix equipment and fix tools and DIY stuff and patch things together.
And planning. You learn how to plan. And
having the foresight, reading the weather. Like I'm grateful for my time as a farmer because it changed me forever. Can you guys give me 1 second? I got
yeah, no problem. No problem.
Be back
Yeah.
in 10 seconds.
Yeah, no rush. Yeah, like I was hearing him, Darren, he was even talking about just like little things like brushing the snow off the solar panels and the
Right.
greenhouse,
This was on his podcast or something.
What's that?
This was on his podcast or something.
Yeah, I think I was just watching one of his videos. I was watching one of your videos, and even just little things you were talking about, like tips and tricks, like brushing the snow off of a greenhouse or off your solar panels, to let the sun come in right away. Like there's just like the regular maintenance that has to happen too, besides even just the harvesting or the.
Well, that's just it. Yeah. But I guess, and the point I was trying to make before my son came in here is that I had a good base of skills before I came out to do this. Cause this was new for me. Like I was an urban farmer, but I'd done so much consulting over the years on all kinds of different farms around the world that I had a pretty broad understanding of farming. Never big farming, like never involved in, Saskatchewan style commodity farming, but any type of market gardening or small farming, homesteading and such. I just had such a skill base that when I came out here, I was really able just to kind of run with it. And so, but yeah, no, I can do everything on this homestead in 10 hours. Like, and I would say it's probably the same on from winter to summer, because in the summer it's more the gardening chores, moving water around and things like that. But still, I still am developing this homestead. It's not completely done.
Yeah.
But then in the winter I've got snow. I got to deal with snow. Like I get 120 inches of accumulated snow here on average in a winter.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when I get a big on the first part of the winter, like November up to the new year, that's kind of our really socked in time of winter. We just get so much snow. Like every day I'm moving snow. But so it's kind of the same on both sides. Like I could do the same amount of chores in the winter, because in the winter I got firewood chores, I got snow removal chores. I got to go scrape off those solar panels if I get a big dump of snow. I got to get the snow off the greenhouses. Doing the chicken chores takes a little bit longer, stuff like that. But then in the summer it's different chores because the gardens are going. It's pruning my tomatoes and moving my chickens around from plot to plot and stuff like that.
Are you pretty much self-sustainable then? Like, do you, I mean, I know that you're off grid, but do you,
no,
like
really.
you still go buy your food and stuff like that? Or like, cause I would think some of the goals would be to, so you can spend less out there kind of.
Well, there's no question we do. There's no question we do, but I'm very pragmatic about,
what to put
be
your
self-sufficient. A lot of people think that you can just come out here and like literally just produce all your own food. No fucking way. Like that's what I'm getting at. That's the goal. Like that's where I want to be. And if we were to put all the things in a spreadsheet, it'd look pretty good. But we still buy food. Like I don't raise cows and what we eat beef. So I need to get that from somewhere. We raise our own chickens for meat. We do our own egg layers. I'm going to do fish at some point up here because I have two pretty sweet ponds. And I probably could do goats and sheep eventually, but cows would never work on my property. I don't have grass. I don't have the kind of soil that you guys have in the prairies. So this is not possible. So we do a lot. I mean, and as far as vegetables and fruit go, yeah, I do most of them. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Even
you can do enough to preserve it for the winter.
No problem. Like,
no problem.
Absolutely 100%. No problem. I mean, the gardens are getting better every year. I have 3 greenhouses too, right? So like I've got.
How much is that? How much is that for? What is there? How many people? Is there 2 of you up there?
I have 2 kids and my wife. So there's
4 of you up there.
Yeah.
So how much? Like, can you give me a rough idea what a year worth of vegetables looks like by the pound, by pounded or something like that?
Oh, it's probably, I mean, it's probably 1,000 pounds or so. I mean, it's vegetables don't all equal the same as far as their nutrient density by weight, right? So to talk pounds is kind of irrelevant to some degree. You have to be more specific. But I mean, on all these gardens, I can grow all the carrots, potatoes, beets, celery, beans, peas, tomatoes, peppers, onions, garlic, squash. I can grow all those vegetables for an entire year up here easily. And then I've got a
What's the
pretty
season like?
stellar. What's that?
What's the season like? Like, what you starting in
We're a
April?
zone 5, so we're a lot warmer than you guys in the prairies. So I mean, I'm out in the field in mid-April, but I'm in the high tunnels, like this one right here. That's an unheated greenhouse. My chickens are in that right now. But I'll have crops in the ground in there in late March. This greenhouse here is pretty fancy. I've got stuff in there year round. Like I've got castor bean plants alive in there still.
Is that an American flag in your snow behind you there?
No, that's just the garden.
I think there's an
beds,
American
like the way
flag
this-
in your snow. I think you want to
actually,
become
you're
a
funny. It kind of looks like it,
You
doesn't it?
separatist bastard.
Yeah.
It's okay.
yeah.
We are too.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, shit. That's so. How much longer is your growth? Because I'm like, what is zone? What am I? A zone? Am I a higher
You're probably
zone or a
zone
lower
3.
zone? Which is
Probably
shittier.
Shittier, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not bad. I mean, you can do it. If you want to grow a lot of produce.
I could run
you can
cattle.
do it.
That's where my advantage is. It's a lot easier
Exactly.
for me to have, lots of chickens, cattle, all that sort of stuff is
Absolutely.
easy.
Yep. And
I mean,
that's what
right
it's all
now,
about.
I'm already, shooting 90% of my meat
Well, that's
is
fucking
from
awesome.
stuff I'm
That's
shooting,
like-
but I've got no
huge.
vegetable uptake. So I mean, we should talk off air again because maybe I just drive out there once a year with a truckload of moose and I drive back with a truckload of
Fucking
veg.
rights, man. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. But that's the thing, there's all kinds of different ways to be self-sufficient. It's what do you like doing and what are you good at? And for me, farming was a strong point because that was my background. And so, for me to come in and set up a half acre of gardens and plant 400 trees and all that kind of stuff was in my wheelhouse. Whereas the hunting and stuff like that, I have yet to get there, but it's in the plans. I definitely want to do that.
I know a guy that does a lot of hunting, so maybe
You planted trees.
learn how to do some
400 trees?
farming.
What's that, Graham?
What were the trees for?
Fruit. You can kind of see, down here,
Yeah.
these kind of curvy lines here.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a food forest on contour. And so
Oh, nice.
but this picture, like in winter, you can't see anything because the trees are only a year old. But I planted 475 trees. But they're not all edible too. There's about 3/4 of them are support species. So they're nitrogen fixers, they're biomass accumulators, water retaining, you name it. There's all these different types of trees, and it's a 10-year plan so that in 10 years there'll be a 1/4 of those trees still existing, and then all the support species will be gone because they'll kind of have lived out their purpose. And
Nice.
so that was it's called a syntropic food forest. I got the idea from Albertan, Dakota Cohen.
Oh, cool.
He's up in kind of a little bit east of Edmonton.
I mean, I love it up there. I like the plains. I like hunting. I like the coulees. I like it all, and the idea of running cattle. But there's because up north there's nobody. Around here it's fucking nuts. From here for about 2 or 3 hours north, it's pretty crazy. Once you get about 2 hours north of Edmonton, there's nobody, and there's really nothing. But the days just get shorter and shorter, and the winter gets longer. So you're in BC. Is that where? So did you look in the States? Did you consider the States? Would you
I could have
consider
moved
the
to.
States?
Oh yeah, totally. I had a
everywhere
business in
that was
Carlsbad,
still BC?
California for years. I thought there was a time where I was going to move to Southern California, but then it really started to get woke, and there's no way because I've mostly been a U.S. based entrepreneur for my entire.
Well, yeah,
life.
that's what I was wondering. So you
That's
didn't
where all
even
the money is.
Yeah.
So I could have moved there a long time ago, but I don't know, man. I mean, there was a time where I really wanted to move to Northeast Texas. That was the spot, kind of east of Austin, up or even in Arkansas. I really like North Central Arkansas. I really like Southeast
Tennessee.
Missouri or Southwest Missouri. There's parts, but the thing is that America has that I don't
People.
like. Yeah, it's too many fucking people, and there's just too many. Like, you know, I don't want to be. I'll just be politically incorrect. There's just like too much black thug culture. You know what I mean? Like,
Jesus Christ.
we don't fucking
I
have
get
that
it.
in Canada. We don't.
Well,
have that
we're
shit.
getting a different kind of thug culture.
Well,
Like,
we
you know,
are, but
we're
it's
getting
still not the
singers.
same, dude.
Well, not yet,
I've been
but
to.
I mean, I don't want to extrapolate this too much farther down this
Yeah.
experiment too far out because you can see where it ends up.
Yeah, it doesn't sound nice.
It doesn't
And
sound nice.
But I've been to all the major metropolitan cities in the US. Like I'm pretty traveled as far as the US is concerned. I've been to 45 US states. So I've been to all the big cities multiple times. And like Chicago, St. Louis, Atlanta, Memphis, those cities fucking suck.
Oh yeah,
and
everything east of the Rockies could just fall into the ocean.
But it's nice because the climate's nice out there. Like 80% of the US population live east of the Mississippi. And you can see why. When you look at it on a map, it's green, it's lush, it's all that temperate climate. It's really nice. But that country was destroyed after the New Deal when they brought in the welfare state and affirmative action. And you have that culture down there that sucks. It's just like it's not safe, you know? Like I would never take my kids to those cities. Never. You can get stabbed. Like in Memphis, you can get stabbed. Like I know so many people in those cities and they all have violent stories. It's like, that's the thing that I like about Canada is like, we don't have that shit. And
Well,
yeah,
not yet.
not
It's
yet.
getting there. It's getting there.
Well, we can get there. We talk about that too. That you're right. But we still don't have the numbers though. Not even close. That's why I've stayed here is because like you can go down the prepper rabbit hole until you're blue in the face. And for my journey of understanding that, like I've been obsessed with all that stuff for so long. I always arrived at people as being your number one liability. People. Like you can pick good locations based on geography and all that, but at the end of the day, socioeconomics, culture, and crime rates are better statistics to follow because
It's like physics, you know, they're physical laws.
You've seen the videos of the Black Friday sales, you know, in a city like St. Louis, where there's just like piles of black people kicking the shit out of each other over a fucking television. What does it look like of 3 days with no food? Not good, especially for Whitey. So that's the thing why I've stayed in Canada, frankly. I could have gone to the US a long time ago. I've had multiple businesses down there. I could have just gotten their little visa and done that stuff. But I don't know, man. I like Canada. Like I like the Canadian experience. Like I like the culture of, you know, like I remember in the 80s the log drivers song on CBC. Remember that cartoon where the guy's walking on the log and there's that song and he's going down the river, the log drivers song or whatever. It's like that's Canadiana. Like I love that shit. Like bush culture. And I was a tree planter for 10 years to put myself through college and my early part of my music career. I love that kind of stuff. America doesn't have that stuff. Not like Canada does. And so I don't know. I kind of feel like it's part of my heritage and I like it.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I get it. I just think it's gone or it's broken. But I mean, I think you're doing the right thing. You're just taking it into your own hands and you're finding the best location and you're doing it yourself. I mean, I think that's really, really where it's at, you know?
Yeah. And you can do that anywhere to some degree. You just got to be like at least a tank of gas drive away from any metropolitan city that has a large portion of the population that collects.
Well, dude, tank of gas, that's tough. That's like 500-600 kilometers. I mean, that's a ways away. But that's good advice though. Yeah.
But it rules out a lot of places. And so, yeah. But the thing is too, it's a catch-22 because people are your greatest liability, but they're also your greatest asset.
Yeah.
Like that's the one thing I often, you know, like I have a lot of friends in the southeast of the US and and like most of my peers are out there. And I sometimes get a little jealous on how much community they have. You know, like there's so many cool spots in Arkansas and Missouri of real like-minded preppers that are hardcore. You know, they're all armed to the teeth. They're willing to like go to war, you know, and they're fucking ready to go to war because they might, because if St. Louis and Memphis spill over, you know, you're going to see those people pretty quick. So, but at the same time, it brings that community. Whereas out here, it's a lot more sparse. Like we have community out here. We have friends like that, but not like they do down there. Not even close. It's just the population density is not even close.
I would agree. Yeah. What about energy? What about energy on your property? I mean, solar panels. What else? What like you're off the grid like that way too? Like you're fully
off the grid. Yep. Solar. We got a diesel. So those panels there. Those are 48 panels that are all 423 watts each. So I think it's a 20.8 kilowatt system for solar, which is a lot. And then we have a 13 kilowatt diesel generator, and it's all automated. So as soon as basically I'm solar 90% of the year, almost even more. Even now, I'm not even running my generator at all because on after the new year, we get so much more sunlight because it gets colder. So the cloud inversions are way below us. We're in the sun all the time. So, you know, it does everything. It runs my water system. I don't have to do firewood. I've got a heat pump in the house. I can be completely solar. My generator hasn't turned on in like a month, basically.
Wow.
I only run my generator from basically mid-November, or call it November 1st to January 1st. That's the only time of the year that I run my generator.
How much fuel do you think you'd consume in those 2 months?
130 liters of diesel.
That's like filling up my truck.
It's fuck all.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fuck all. It's amazing.
And how much are those solar panels set up like that worth, do you think?
My whole system is 130 grand.
I was gonna say 100, but yeah.
Yeah. 130 grand is what I put into that entire system. That's labor, wire, inverters, charge controllers, batteries, solar panels, rigging, concrete, everything.
Wow. What about some of these new funky windmills that you see?
Wind is a joke. Wind is a fucking joke. Never get wind. I mean, well, here's the thing that's interesting about wind is if you have enough wind to get power from,
you don't want to be there.
It sucks to live there because it's windy all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So wind sucks. So, and actually I have two wind. You can't really see them, but they're behind this little greenhouse here. There's actually two wind propellers. They're two 200 watt propellers that they came with the place, and they're useless. Like it's a joke. It's only ever windy when it's sunny, except the odd time in the deep of winter where I get these like cold winds at night, but it's not worth it. It's not worth the infrastructure. I mean, hey, somebody might have a case for it somewhere, but I find generally speaking with off-grid tech, you're better just to have more solar.
Yeah, no, it's good to know. Yeah,
you need a generator, and if you can do micro hydro, if you're close to a river or some kind of gravity feed water system, absolutely, that's the best because it's just it's constant and it runs at night. But solar is pretty much just the name of the game. Solar and a generator, either a propane or a diesel generator.
Especially in another 5 or 10 years, like I feel like in the last 10 years, the solar has really come a long way.
Oh, it's unbelievable. Now you can get bifacial panels now. I can switch up all of these panels I have to bifacial panels and get another 25% kilowatts without adding anything else. So it's come a long way.
Are they static or do they follow the sun at all?
They don't track. There's no point to doing tracks. Like if you crunch the numbers on tracking, it's not worth it. It's not worth the engineering. You might as well just add more PV. These basically are all fixed. So the one in the middle is true south. This one is southeast, and this one's southwest. And then I do change the angle at every season. So these are in winter mode right now. They're almost vertical. And then in springtime, they'll go to that, and fall would be the same. And then summer, they'll kind of go like that.
That's fascinating.
How often do you get snowed in up there?
It depends on the year. Last year was rough. Last year I put in 1 week 50 hours on my skid steer. It was fucking nuts. But it was only because I had construction guys coming up here that I needed to maintain the driveway like that, because there was like materials coming up the driveway and trailers and stuff. I don't really ever get snowed in. I mean, I can always get down, and I can just push with my skid steer down. So I can always get down. But yeah, we can. I mean, we're in a snow belt, man. Like we can get 2 years ago, November 3rd, it snowed for 3 days straight. 4 feet of snow landed in that time. And it was insane. And I was so not prepared for it. I didn't have as much of the right equipment as I do now. And that's the thing. You got to have the equipment, you know, like my skid steer is my number one piece of equipment up here. And I got a snow blower for it. I've got a blade. I use the bucket a lot on the landings and stuff like that. I've also got a push snow blower. I've got all kinds of different shovels to deal with snow. Like it's certainly a job, but I like it, man. Like I get a lot less, as most people do. You get less exercise in the winter. So yeah. I really like the snow work. I enjoy it. I won't lie. There's times if we get a big dump, I'm like over it.
I'm over it now.
But overall, I kind of get stoked when there's a new snowfall. I'm like, oh, sweet, I can go and smoke a joint and fucking go and shovel snow for an hour. You know, I kind of like it.
I got to plow on my quad, and my driveway's not as long as yours. This boat, it's maybe 200, 300 feet. So it's a thing. But I'm looking for a tractor because I'm always constantly. I mean, my problem here is moving hay. Moving 1,500-pound fucking bales of hay around. It's just I have not found a fucking easy way to do it with my truck. I always get it done, but it's never the same.
You gotta have a tractor, dude.
You need a tractor. You just stick that thing in there, and it's got those big, huge back wheels that go slow, so it never gets stuck. Because half the time is my truck. Now it's fucking snow, so my truck's just stuck while it's trying to pull the hay.
When I'm done my construction, I got 1 more year of construction up here, because like even my house, like we live in that house now. It's not sided or anything though. I still have some stuff to do to finish it. So I've got another year, not a year. I could probably, if I get another 6 guys up here, I can finish this entire construction project in a month, which is what I think I might do this year instead of stretching it out over 6 months like I did this year. I'm kind of sick of having construction guys up here. But when I'm done, I'll probably trade my skid steer for a tractor.
So are you there right now then?
Yeah, I'm actually in this big greenhouse here. This is where I am right now. There's a garage behind it. That's where I'm sitting right now.
With the Starlink, I'm assuming?
Yeah, I got Starlink. Yeah. My wife and kids are all in the house. But yeah, when I'm done construction, I think a tractor's better because skid steers, they twist, right? And
they're annoying.
Wreck the ground. It's annoying.
Yeah.
But they're better for construction though.
And they're heavy.
You can get them in tighter spots.
If it does get stuck, you'll never get it out.
No. Oh, I put 4 chains on my skid steer though. Like I
there you go.
4. Yeah.
There you go.
A chain on every.
Now you're really ripping up the ground.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, but you turn carefully, right? Like I kind of 3-point turn everything. But then now the ground's totally frozen and I've got a base layer of ice that's like 6 inches, I can twist till I'm blue in the face and it won't matter. But on the first side of winter, when the ground's not frozen, you got to be so careful running a skid steer. Otherwise you destroy your road. It's just terrible. So I think overall, a tractor is going to be better for that. But I think skid steers are just better for construction in general.
So how many acres are you on there?
40.
40? Yeah.
So are you going to buy like a new tractor or an older one, or do you have one in mind?
I'll get a new one for sure. I mean,
brand new Kubotas. John Deere.
I like Kubotas. I'll probably get a Kubota tractor with a cab.
What's that, Japanese?
They're Japanese, yeah.
You son of a bitch. You can't buy an American John Deere?
I hate John Deere, man. I go, John Deere's are shit. But hey, I could get into a debate with a lot of farmers about that. Kubotas are amazing. Their financing is amazing. They're also too, you know what, when it comes down to buying a machine, one thing I learned from, because I shopped around for a long time, is you can look at Bobcat, depends what you want, right? If you're talking farming, it's a different thing. But for construction equipment, it's like Bobcat, Kubota, and John Deere, and maybe what's the other good ones? The yellow ones. Cats. All that really matters is how close your nearest service guy is. That's the main thing. Because if you buy a machine in a town an hour away and you need something, well, it's a pain in the ass. So I have a good service guy who's close. And so that was actually the final decision for me on the Kubota. But I have two machines. I've got a 4.5 ton excavator. It's like the K040. Great. It's got the 6-way dozer blade. It's fucking amazing for construction and for terracing. And then I got the SSV 65 for the skid steer. And those machines, I love those machines. I've had them for 3 years now. No problems at all. Just keep up with your regular filters and stuff like that, and oil and greasing. And man, those machines are solid. I've never had a single issue with them.
Well, I'm gonna have to take a look at the website because I'm like, I got kids. I got kids that are growing up fast. So I'm like, in 10 years, I'm like, man, what am I gonna do? Where am I gonna go? What am I gonna, we've got this thing we built, and we're the ability to we got sort of that fuck off job, and
It's awesome.
Is where so it's like where to go. So I'm gonna have to take a look at that map. But I think I do want to run some cattle. I have this thing in the back of my head of having some horses and having 20 or 30 cows that I'm chasing around, and I think that's. I'll probably stick in Alberta, but because I do want cattle. I think
Indian cowboy. He wants to be the Indian cowboy.
That's it. I belong in the plains. I ain't a fishing Indian. I mean, I got nothing but respect for them. I mean, yeah. But I'm not that kind of. I'm a hunting Indian. So shout out to Ken Friday, who I'm sure is listening. He's one of them fishing Indians. He sent us some fish right here. My wife said it was delicious, but nice. I'm not a can fish. I'm not even a can. I don't want to eat it because no offense, but I'm not a fishing Indian. So just not into it. But I'm pretty curious about this because it's my long-term plan is to sort of do exactly what you're doing, exactly what you're doing. And I was looking at doing it sooner, but when you got like a bunch of kids and you're sharing them and life's so busy right now, it's like, well, instead of just worrying about that, I should just like ease into what's happening now. And, I'll be out by the time I'm 50 and be able to just sort of like, where are we going to go?
But you know what? There's something to it as far as your kids growing up with it. I mean, my kids are young. My daughter is
I'm divorced.
My boy's 5. Yeah, that is a problem.
So my ex is probably gonna be like, I don't want her on. I don't want her anywhere near the homestead.
The divorce is a complete game changer. We're together.
Otherwise, I'd be on Montana someplace, and fucking nobody would know. I'd be in that Flathead Valley area, Montana. I really like it down around there.
The thing that I found has been really cool about just having young kids is the things that they learn that you take for granted. Like my kids are homeschooled, and I just kind of got them involved in like this homeschool group that they go to twice a week now. And then when you go to these types of things where there's other kids, you sort of see where other kids are at and stuff like that. And my kids are behind in some ways in like the conventional education, but the life skills and the things that my kids know that I take for granted from being here are unbelievable. Like my daughter's a complete plant whiz. She knows every single plant up here. My daughter could take you for a walk in the forest, and she could name every tree, every plant on the ground, everything that's medicinal, everything that's edible. She just knows this stuff because she's around it. They understand things like the water cycle. They understand things like the way plants grow, or what to look for if a plant's diseased. Like it's just things that you just take for granted because it's just their experience. But when I kind of think about what's important in life, I just go, man, that shit is so much more important. Because like, fuck, when I graduated public school, what did I really get out of it? Basic math,
typing.
typing and reading, all things I could have learned on my own or learned anywhere. You don't need school for those things. And so I kind of, I don't know.
I remember typing class.
Yeah, it's definitely not easy to live this way. I won't lie. It requires a lot of just involvement. You know, you got to take responsibility. It's like if it in the wintertime, if it snows and there's an inch of snow on those solar panels and it doesn't come off, even despite how high they are, the snow sticks up here. I got to go out there. If I want electricity, I got to go out there and scrape it off. It takes maybe 15 minutes. Not a big deal. But, you know, it's like you got to do things like that. I got to go get the snow off the greenhouses. Otherwise they won't warm up in the day, you know? So you got to own it, which is
the best part.
When I look at it in retrospect, I prefer it.
It's the best part. And I mean, the best part is also if you've got the type of job that you don't have to, you know, you can, that I think most people love the idea of that. If it's not mixed up with rushing out the door to they got to be at the desk at 8 because they got that. And then by the time they get home and I got to pick up the kids and now it's 5:30, we still got to have dinner and there's still fucking ice on the goddamn solar panels. So it's like,
no, that's true.
And they have that freedom. Most people would, you know, love to. That's why for me, that's the goal. I mean, I don't need a ritzy retirement. I just need enough money to get all that shit you got together and be like, fucking yeah, man, I gotta fucking have this coffee.
And you're working to live, really, you know.
You're working to live. And the thing that I often even take for granted in myself, because sometimes you get caught up in the minutia of things, but is that how everything stacks. How, like, for example, even just doing firewood chores, I own that work. So I go out and do it. I'm getting exercise. It's a great way to get exercise. It's every man's got to fucking chop firewood. You know what I mean? It's probably one of the best things a man can do, you know, and have your son learn it. It's like, it's so classic and great, but you're getting exercise, you're breathing fresh air, you're out in the sunshine and you're making heat for your family and no banker taxed you for it. Right?
Yet.
You just did it. So you owned the work all the way through. Nobody was siphoning off and that's why they don't want people homesteading, because in the system that we have, they want everything going through the monetary system so that they can inflate you and tax you, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why what I'm doing is kind of a dying breed. It's like there's very few of us out there doing this stuff anymore.
Well, isn't there an increase in the interest in this? I would think that.
Yeah, well, there is, but when you compare that to all the immigrants that are being pumped into this country, I'm sure
where it used
doesn't
to
work
be
out that way. But yeah, no, there is. There's a massive growth in it. I mean, during the COVID show, it exploded. I mean, our Freedom Farmers business did extraordinarily well during that period because we had information that people were just dying to know. And so, there's no doubt. But you know what? After the lockdowns, it kind of tapered down. People moved back to the cities. We saw it in the real estate trends because, like, we evaluate hundreds of properties a week. We'll siphon through sort of 300 properties to produce 20 to 30. So we see a lot of stuff. But we saw kind of, because we started the Homestead Accelerator. Was it still during COVID a little bit? It's been 2 years. Kind of was at the tail end of it. But we saw a lot of people move out onto the land. And then a year later, a lot of off-grid properties came on the market. And not just off-grid properties, any kind of homestead property that had a lot of turn and burn stuff where you could tell people were just building shit really quickly. Like really shitty generator setups and, you know, really ad hoc solar rigs and stuff like that. We saw so many of that. And so it was a signal that a lot of these, maybe they were liberals that were just like, I want to be off grid and I can work on Zoom anyways, but then they weren't cut out for it. Because most people aren't cut out for it because you got to deal with shit. You know, I had the first year I was here, I had 20 bear incidents up here.
20 bear incidents? Wow.
Yeah. Where bears were smashing shit. And now I've got a really good
You're not allowed to shoot them either, right?
Well, yeah, we don't want to talk about that, but I've got a fenced area here. You can't see it because I put it all along the tree line, but I don't have bear. I've got a good dog and a good fence, and I don't have any bear incidents. But in the first year before I had that fence, It was insane. And so it's stuff like that where you're just like, holy shit, man. Or even deer. Like before I finished the fence, I started gardening a bit. Deer would completely just shred the garden overnight. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, you really got to own it on everything. And you know, my insurance policy are all these systems that I've put into place, even with fire. That's a whole other subject, is how to mitigate fire and stop fires. Because like we're in boreal country. It's Douglas fir, it's fire country.
Yeah.
Yeah, not even necessarily by your own making, lightning strike or whatever, right? It could just be coming up the hill.
Yeah, or Trudeau's operatives out lighting fires in the forest, or you know,
Well,
whatever it is.
You know,
All that climate change, you know.
seems like something's going to.
Climate change.
when
Yeah.
you
It's
see
not
some of the
changing fast
stuff,
enough. Throw some fuel.
when you see how simultaneous some of it's starting, it seems to me even sometimes more a little nefarious than that. I mean,
Oh,
it's like did the
DWs,
three
man, you name
purple-haired fucks all light the fire at 6:46 p.m. because sometimes it's like
Absolutely.
that. It's like, you know, I feel it's almost like
Speaking of fire, how do you heat the
Trudeau's
place?
buddies in China.
yeah.
What's
Graham?
your heating? How do you heat the place?
I've got multiple ways to heat. So in the main house and the greenhouse garage, I can heat with propane. So forced air, propane, central air system. That same central air system also has a heat pump. So when I have lots of solar electricity, I can run the heat pump and I don't even need to light wood fire. And then I've got wood fire. I've got a central boiler. So this little building here, I've got a central wood fire boiler that actually heats this greenhouse, and the house, actually, and the cabin. So if it's like, if I want to, if I have, say, guests in the other house and I want to just heat everything with one fire, I can run that boiler and heat everything. I don't really use it. But I've also got wood stoves in every building as well. So I've got, you know, all the comforts and conveniences of a normal home, but I've also got the redundancies of an off-grid home where I could just have one stove. And in the house now, I've got this sweet setup. If people follow me on X, I've posted a little bit about it recently. I've got this wood stove from this company in Quebec called J.A. Roby. It's a wood cook stove, and they're really skookum. Like, they're nice. It's got the wood burner with the catalytic converter, so you can dampen it down really low and run a burn for 8 hours. And it's got an oven attached to it, but I've mounted a water boiler onto the stove. So I heat my hot with one stove. I heat my hot water that's all tied into the water of the house. So whether I'm doing laundry, filling up a bath, taking a shower, washing the dishes, whatever. So I can heat all the water, heat the house, and cook on one stove.
Wow.
So it's like the ultimate off-grid redundancy. And I'm even going to be finishing a part of it next year, this season, where I've got rainwater catchment on all these buildings. So they all this on this building and this building, all of the rain and snow melt collects right down here. I've got these 2 1,000-gallon underground cisterns. So all the rainwater and snow melt goes through there. So if I don't even have electricity, I'll be able to have water because I've got an annual pump in the downstairs utility room. Whereas, because like I've got a well up here, it's amazing. I've got like deep mountain water, pure as pure can be, but I need 2 kilowatts of electricity to pump that water. So in, say, an EMP scenario, like real shit hits the fan type of thing,
You got
I'll
2,000.
be able to have water, heat, cooking, and warm water with no electricity and only wood.
What's that kilowatt look like? Like, can you? Is there? So how deep is that?
300 feet.
300 feet. Can you get it up manually if you need to with a bike or something like that? Or there's systems?
Yeah, there would be a way, but it would be difficult to do in the winter. That's the thing. But the beauty is with this my rainwater setup that I have on all this is that I've got snow rails on my roof. So you can see the snow stays on the roof, which is actually sweet because when the temperature waxes and wanes, there's all this water going through the gutters and it all goes underground. And so my underground tanks right now, it's -10 outside right now, they're full and they stay full because they spill over. So there's a spillover point. So whenever more water comes in, it just keeps flowing out. But the tanks basically stay full all winter. So
and they don't freeze?
No, they don't freeze because they're underground. And the plumbing on the front, I'll do a video on it at some point, but I on the front of them, I did all the plumbing. I built this sort of insulated room around it, and it's like insulated like a house. And so I've gone out there when it's minus 15 and it's still above zero in there.
Do you have designs for all this stuff? Like, do you help people design their things? Because I mean, I heard you talking about even like designing it so you have less foot traffic every day and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, that's been my wheelhouse forever. That's kind of the majority of consulting I've done.
Wow.
Until I started doing more law stuff, but it is doing that. And so I help people do that all the time. And there's a lot to it because you really want to think about it. This whole homestead was designed around my chore path. So between these two buildings, there's this staircase.
Yeah.
And so it was all designed around me walking out either the front to go into the gardens or walking out the back to manage the solar and all the stuff in the landing there.
Yeah.
So it was all based around the way that I walk day in and day out. And so for the first few years, it sucked because we were living in the cabin over here, but I was coming over here to do all my chores.
Yeah.
But now it's sweet because now we're in the house. And so everything is just so efficient now. And I walk between these two buildings and it's all covered. Like I put a roof in between them so I can walk out in my socks into the greenhouse or the garage. And when we get a big dump of snow, I don't really have to worry about moving snow because I have all this covered area around the building that I could let it snow for weeks. And as long as I don't need to leave the property, I don't care. I can function with everything without even picking up a snow shovel.
What are some top things before we kind of wrap it up? What are some top things that people don't take into consideration or that notice that people should pay attention to when they're like looking for a homestead or just in the middle of their homestead? I mean, is there a couple main things that always come up?
People always buy the wrong properties. It was another thing that inspired me to make that course called Finding the Perfect Homestead Property is that in my consulting over years, I just found that people would always just fixate on the house and they would buy a property based on the wrong criteria. Like they would say, in Alberta, this is very common. People buy a property that has a nice house and a nice view, but they're in like a really shitty part of the climate where it's really cold and windy. They're too exposed. They don't have any shelter. They don't have shelter belts on the property. People don't often think about proximity to the road. They think, oh, well, it's a nice house and it's kind of a cool property, and they like the convenience of a short driveway right off the road. But the problem is if you see the road sees you. So, most crimes are crimes of opportunity. And as we move into economic hard times, you don't want to be visible from a road. That's one of the biggest ones. Also, too, people don't think about the way buildings are set up. So they'll buy a property that's got lots of stuff. Like it's got a house, a barn, a garage, a shop. Every man wants to have a shop. But the layout is all weird. So when you're on the homestead, you're walking from here to there and you just end up spending a lot of time, but there's a lot of things like, if you could imagine a really nice homestead, what it kind of looks like is similar to what I have is a real classic layout for a good homestead is you have a driveway in that has a setback off the road. So you got to come in maybe at least like what Darren has, like 300 feet or something, and a bunch of trees so that you don't see everything from the road. That's really important. But then you come in and there'll be like sort of a cul-de-sac, a main landing. And then you've got a house, a shop, a greenhouse, and then it's like a keyhole where you've got all this other stuff around it. And so that's kind of what I've done with my homestead is I've made everything from the center point, everything around it so that it's kind of like zones of use where in the inner zone, like say for winter, when I don't really have to go to the greenhouses every day or I don't have to tend to the gardens, I'm just there and I can literally just be between the house and the greenhouse and the garage and I don't have to put on shoes. And then And then I think about what's it like when I extend things out. So then, okay, my zone 2 is going to this garden here or this greenhouse here, and I just think about where I move. And that's really one of the most important things, is just when you go and look at a homestead, you want to think about how do you exist there? What is your day-to-day like when you got to go and do this chore and do that chore? Do you have to walk so far for this thing? And that's really important for Canadian climates that get snow, because wherever you're going to walk in the winter path has to be managed, right? And so that's you got to think about those things, and people miss that all the time. They miss that, or they just don't think about their location good enough. Like some people buy too rural, where you're like an hour from the nearest town that doesn't even have everything you need. You don't want to be that. You want to be somewhere between 5 to 10 minutes. Like an ideal scenario would be you're, say, 5 to 20 minutes to a town that can service 90% of your needs. That town could be 2,000 to 8,000.
Yeah.
Anything less than 2,000, there's exceptions though. Like I've seen a lot of small towns in Canada where there's like 1,000 people and they actually have pretty good amenities. So call it 1,000 to 8,000 people. That's a sweet spot. But then you don't want to be near big cities, because then, well, they're more expensive to buy those properties. But then you have that population risk. Whereas if you're thinking about what society looks like if the shit hits the fan, population risk is everything. Because like even a place like Kelowna, which is a fairly medium-sized city as far as Canada is concerned now, if people were starving in that city, where are they going to go? They're going to go out of the main veins of the highway, and they're going to just pillage everywhere as far as a tank of gas can get them, or close to it.
Well, they'll be stacked up at the end of my driveway.
Well, that's
so,
just it.
So eventually they're going to start to drive by.
Yeah.
Ideally. Unless
that's why you don't want to be visible.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
I got a pretty sweet spot here, but it's just the goddamn city. I'm still only 40 minutes from the city outskirts.
Yeah.
But I'm still pulling a bunch of money out of the city. So,
Well, that's just the thing, right?
Problem.
So, an ideal scenario is to set up a plan B, but not everybody can do that. That's expensive. But that's what I did here. I started developing this property before I even sold my house in Kelowna. I had a year up here of a transition where I was commuting back and forth like 2 or 3 times a week. I'd come up here, do a day or two of work, go back, and so on and so forth. I'd bring my wife and kids up here to kind of hang out for a week, and then we'd go back to the city. So I did that, and it was kind of tough, but it was kind of cool though, because then I got the transition instead of just like end this thing and then go here. If you can transition, it certainly is good.
I can see it coming. I mean, it's close enough that it's not a pipe dream, right? It's not, it's like, damn, it's like 6-7 years from just being able to go wherever or do whatever. And I keep sort of leaning into this. Curtis, this has been great. I mean, I think we might have been following each other on Twitter for a long time before I got banned. I don't know. I swear I remember seeing you around on X like 10 years ago. Is that correct?
Well, no, you know what? No, it's true. I was it was a different account though. I had an Urban Farmer account on Twitter a long time ago. I barely used it though. I was mostly on YouTube. I was on Facebook for a while, and then I deleted it out during COVID. But I've mostly been on YouTube all these years.
Well, this has been a great chat. Where can people find all that stuff? Where can they find your YouTube, your website, all that sort of stuff? Any links?
Yeah,
can you give us all your links?
freedomfarmers.com is where all my really meaty content is, the courses that I've built, stuff that really will move the needle for you. YouTube, I mean, I still have lots of videos there. I don't post. I've been doing videos for 10 years. I'm kind of tired of it, to be honest with you. But people can find me on YouTube at, at Off Grid Stone. No, yeah, just Off Grid with Curtis Stone on YouTube. And then on X, I'm at Off Grid Stone. I post a lot on X these days. I kind of like it. But, and I'm on Telegram too, t.me/SHTF Farmer. Yeah.
Excellent.
Where I'm at.
Well, this has been great. Let's talk off air about a few things we should talk off air about sometimes. So I'll get your email address or whatever Graham sent you, and we'll chat, because we can maybe help each other out.
Absolutely.
Right on, Curtis. This has been great. Come back anytime.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
Take care.
Take care.
And that was a chat with Curtis Stone. What'd you think?
Yeah, it makes me wanna get off grid a little bit.
Really? You're gonna?
I mean, well, it's weird because I'm doing rentals in our little place, and we're in a town that's
I
like
was gonna say, I feel like you're getting a
size
little ahead of yourself.
the size that he's talking about, right? 2,500 people, 2,000. It's like it's pretty good size. So I'll start small with this one. I'm thinking about maybe trying to figure out what to do with this, But
Just saying, dude, rentals his basement. All of a sudden, he's like, "I'm going homestead." I'll get you a little. Well, why don't we just get you a little place at the off in the corner of my homestead? You don't have to do all the work. I mean,
Well,
that's
you know what's weird? I'll tell you
the
what's weird.
ultimate way to
So
do it.
I've been painting in Saskatchewan, right? I'm painting I'm end up like in these farmhouses, repainting farmhouses. So I'm seeing a lot of this this stuff. I'm seeing all these old farmhouses and built up and got extensions and renovations, and it's interesting to see it happen.
Dude, this is only a quarter section. So imagine if we went up like north of here and got a whole section. So 4 times 160 acres.
So 600.
640 acres, 4 times. Mine's cut off, so it's not a full section, but you kind of get the because of the canal there, but you get the idea, right?
Yeah.
So the one like next to me would be a full section to the fucking highway. That one that goes right from my thing, right to the highway, and then all the way down to the thing with the pond in it. That's a full section. Dude, you can have fucking 80 of your buddies out there.
But you were talking about going up north and getting more even, right? I mean,
I'd like to get thousands of acres, ideally. Yeah, I'd like to. If I need to use my victim card, maybe I can use my victim card somehow. Someone knows how I can use my Indianness to make this easier.
We're on the unceded lands of Darren Grimes, or I guess it'd be like.
I mean, the other thing is just make more money. We could just, if we have more supporters, because I was looking at some nice parcels for like 10, 12 million down in Montana, where it's fucking like 1,200 acres with a couple of rivers through it. But it's like, I mean, the biggest one I looked at was thousands acres. I want to say it was 25,000 acres, and it was 80 million US.
That seems a lot still,
dude. It was like it's so crazy beautiful. I mean, it's basically you got your own fucking Yellowstone, man. Not quite, man.
Land, man.
I'd like to get a few thousand acres though eventually. Well, because there's going to come a time. If anything, it's become pretty evident that there's going to come a time when it's not a thing, and where it's extremely fucking difficult to get your hands on it.
Yeah,
as these mega corps keep gobbling it up and stuff like that. And one thing Curtis is right is that Canada is the last frontier for a few of those things. Right? Like that's another thing to think about, flying from Vancouver to Calgary and there's fucking nothing. For 12, for 2.5 hours straight on an airplane, there's nothing. Where, and then in northern Alberta, it's the same sort of thing. The entire population of Alberta is basically Edmonton and south, is most of it. Then the rest is almost nothing. So you get, up Peace River, east of Peace River up there. I mean, I haven't started looking yet, but I think you could probably look at getting 1,000 acres, or a section or two for not crazy amounts of money. I mean, if you want to go up to I think you could just go still just fucking fence some shit off. Now, if you go Yukon and Northwest Territories, there's probably some spots where you could just
claim it. You're like, I'm an Indian. I've been here for.
I think you probably
claiming this land.
I think they still have squatters' rights up there, where if you build it on it, they can't fucking kick you out. But I mean, you're in the middle of. You want to talk about too remote?
Yeah, but I like what Curtis is doing. How he's made it all basically self-sufficient.
That's perfect.
With all the different redundancies. I mean, he's done it just.
And then making your living on the internet. I mean, it's just perfect. You just sit there and fucking make money, and then go on a trip once in a while. All right, let's go fly down to Vegas and just get a culture shock, and then hide out on the fucking mountain for another 6 months. I feel like that we do enough of those trips and stuff that it could work out pretty good. It's from the off grid to the around.
Yeah, the thing is, it's a lot of work though. The daily work to upkeep and to maintain it, it is a lot of work.
He said 10
just
hours
to do that. Yeah, but he's got it all dialed in, man. And to get to that level, I mean, that's like a decade to that level.
You don't think you could dial it in? I think you could dial it in.
Not at his level, no.
Anyway, shout out to everyone listening. Shout out to Mike, voiceover Mike. You read some books for us on Adult Brain. Anyway, big thanks to Curtis for coming on the show. Big thanks to you guys for listening. Even bigger thanks if you're one of the few people who choose to support our work over at grimerica.ca/support. If you got some value from this show, if you got some value from any of the shows that you've listened to, let us know what it's worth to you. Is it worth $1? Is it worth $5? Is it worth $10? $1 million? I don't think PayPal will let you do $1 million. But head over to grimerica.ca/support today. Maybe try it. See if it lets you. And sign up for a monthly or make a one-time donation. And we'd be super stoked. We'd make you a Noble. We'll read your note if you got one. Whatever you got, we would be stoked about it. Check out everything else we're up to. AmericaCBD.com for CBDs, adultbrain.ca for the audiobooks, Contact at the Cabin for the trips, and Grimerica Outlawed for the controversial stuff. So now we love you guys. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.
You're yawning, yet not breathing in a hospital room. Should I call for help? We are drowning in this ocean swell. Let's start from scratch. The fuel for your worries.